After I did that skim bedding video, my email got hit with many questions about bedding compounds. And I promised those viewers that I'd throw together a quick video about the various bedding compounds that I've used. I'm doing my best in this video to be objective with you. So I'm providing laboratory strength ratings as well as my own personal observations and experiences from using these bedding compounds. Many of my viewers are going to be angry with me because I'm only comparing these three bedding materials right here. I'll be comparing Devcon to marine-tex and then seeing how JB Weld stacks up to those. All three of these compounds are commonly used in marine, mechanical, and aircraft applications. So manufacturers provide technical data for these products that are easy to find online. Other bedding compounds like Acroglass, Brownell Steel Bed, and ProBed, those companies refuse to supply any technical data or lab results on their products, which kind of seems suspicious to me. And for this reason, I won't be covering any of those other brands. Most professionals must also agree with this because those products are rarely used anymore. Also be mindful that you can't just grab any two-part epoxy and use it to bed a rifle stock. There's just a select few epoxies on the market that meet all the needs for this particular application. You know, a good two-part epoxy for bedding a rifle stock must have high compressive strength. It must bond to all stock materials. It has to have zero shrinkage. It has to have the right consistency and working time. It must be sandable and maybe machinable. And it must be able to handle hot barrel temperatures. And it must be immune to the effects of common oils and solvents that we use on our rifles. So let's compare the three most common bedding compounds used by hobbyists and professionals. First, let's discuss marine-tex gray. Don't buy the marine-tex white. It's a different blend, and it's not nearly as strong as the gray. So if you want to use marine-tex, buy the gray. And let's go over some of the pros and cons of the marine-tex. Pros, it's got the best compression strength. It's also easier to work with great consistency. And some of the cons with it is mix ratio accuracy is critical. And I mean, this is the one bedding compound where if you don't mix it perfectly, you won't have great results. And it's mixed 5-to-1 by volume. So it's kind of tricky to get it right without accurately measuring everything out. And the last con is that it's often really hard to find locally. Most people have to order this online and wait a week or so to have it shipped to their house. But over the last 5 years, marine-tex has overtaken Devcon as the most widely used bedding compound by professionals. Most custom gun makers like Macmillan use marine-tex gray on all their rifles now. You know, they argue that all things being equal, compressive strength is the most important attribute of a bedding compound, and that's what marine-tex delivers on. In contrast, many home hobbyists are wary of marine-tex because a perfect mix ratio is critical and it's often complicated to obtain. Devcon makes many different epoxies, but the one you want for use for bedding a rifle stock is the 10110 kit. This is the one you want. Now, the pros of the Devcon is that it has the best adhesion strength. So it actually sticks to the material you're putting it on better than most other bedding compounds. It also has a great working time. I mean, the stuff isn't going to harden too much on you while you're doing work. It's also easy and very forgiving to mix. This stuff has a 2.5 by 1 mix ratio by volume. So it's not hard to do. I mean, most people use like like teaspoons or a container and just mix it 2.5 to 1 by volume. And if it's off a little bit, the stuff still works good. It's not critically sensitive to your mix ratio being exact. Um, the bads about this are that the cons are that it has a low temperature tolerance, lower than all the rest actually. And I didn't know this until putting together this little review. Another con is this is the most expensive bedding compound that you could, that I think it's more expensive than anything else you can buy. So it is pricey. And like the marine-tex, it's also hard to find locally, and you usually have to order the stuff online to get it. And finally, we have JB Weld. JB Weld makes many different kinds of two-part epoxies, but the one you want is the 8281 Professional in the original formula. Stay away from the quick weld or the fast drying epoxies. Those really don't work well for the application we're using them in. You want this branded, this model number of JB Weld to do it right. Now, some of the pros of JB Weld, and there's actually surprisingly a lot of them. This has the solid all-around performance. I mean, it's somewhere right in between Devcon and marine-tex, so it's really good. This also has the best heat resistance. It's the cheapest of all the bedding compounds by actually a large margin. It's definitely the easiest to mix. It's just a simple 1-to-1 ratio by volume. Super easy to mix. And it's not overly sensitive if your mix ratio is slightly off either. And this stuff is easy to obtain at almost any store. I mean, you can go down to Walmart, AutoZone, O'Reilly's. You know, hell, my local grocery store carries this stuff, so it's everywhere. Now, some of the cons are that it's very runny after you mix it. And in order for this stuff to be usable for bedding a stock, you have to let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. And if it's cold, maybe even longer, maybe up to a half hour or more, if it's cold where you're mixing it up. The other con is it's looked down upon by many professionals. But people have been bedding stocks with JB Weld for almost 40 years. But I didn't start using this until about 2014 when they changed their product to the new high strength formulation. This used to be, the original formula had a tensile strength of 3,960 psi, and this new formulation has a tensile strength of 5,020 psi. So this new formulation is stronger than the old one. But like I stated in the pros and cons, this stuff is pretty runny when you first mix it, almost too runny for a proper bedding job. But if you spread it out and let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes, it's much easier to work with. And this has become my go-to material for quick skim bedding jobs. You can clearly see that marine-tex is the winner when it comes to compression strength, which many gunsmiths feel is what counts in a bedding compound. And this is probably why most professionals use it. Looking at this chart, Devcon actually isn't as great as I used to think it was. Certainly not at this price tag. But I think that the fact that it's so easy and forgiving to mix still makes it attractive to hobbyists. You know, you always get that perfect peanut butter consistency that makes a great looking finished product, and it does have a great long-term track record. Now, JB Weld is the surprising product of this comparison. It's just a solid overall performer at a fantastic price. You know, and you don't have to order this stuff. Just head over to Walmart or AutoZone and pick it up. I personally feel totally confident using JB Weld, you know, as long as you overcome the runny mixture issues by letting it settle for a while. Like you, this comparison left me asking, why don't more people use JB Weld? And I can only come up with two reasons. Number one, you need to let your mixture sit for a while so it thickens up on you before you can use it. And in a high volume shop, time is money, and they don't want to add another half hour to the time it takes to bed a stock. marine-tex is good right after you mix it, and JB Weld just isn't. And reason number two is that gunsmiths love the appearance of a job done right. And JB Weld is associated with rednecks jerry-rigging engine blocks and plugging up horrible welds. So perception is everything in the gun industry. And if somebody buys a rifle for $10,000 and finds out that you bedded it with JB Weld, their imagination is just going to run wild at that point. And knowing that a rifle was bedded with something really expensive just makes a client sleep better at night. But for my personal use, I love using JB Weld for quick like skim bedding jobs, and it's actually really good stuff. I hope you found this bedding compound comparison enlightening. I know I did, and I apologize if I didn't include your favorite bedding compound. Maybe you can convince them to give you some technical specs or lab results, but I doubt they ever will. Looking at the data provided in this video, it's easy to see why most gunsmiths switched from Devcon to marine-tex. And I'm pretty much convinced myself to do the same. But the most important thing I gleaned from this video is that JB Weld is a pretty kick-ass option for the home hobbyist wanting to bed their own personal rifles. I mean, it's cheap, it's easy to mix, and it's available everywhere. It's proof that something doesn't have to be expensive or hard to get to be a great product in the industry. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you for watching, and good hunting.